You're listening to Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, your go-to gal for all things money. As the Sassy Wealth Queen and the brains behind the Sassy Wealth Coach, I'm here to take you on a thrilling ride from the financial chaos to sassy and sexy money. Welcome back, my sassy friend, to another episode of Cash and Sass. I'm Lisa Marie, your host and the Sassy Wealth Queen and the brains behind the Sassy Wealth Coach and, of course, this podcast. And today with me, I have Tony Schmaltz. Tony has a passion for helping people upgrade their lives in any area possible, specializing in mindset, wealth creation, which is my favorite thing in the world, manifesting, relationships, and happiness. He will help you live the life of your dreams. Tony has shared live or virtual stages, with Les Brown, Tom Ziegler, Steve Chandler, and Waldo Waldman, Tana Gowart, I know I butchered her name, Kevin Sorbo, and so many more. Tony has spent most of his life in some sort of personal development. However, he hit it really hard in the last 5 years, spending over $250,000 to learn, grow, and succeed. His no-nonsense humor style of teaching and coaching gets people off their butts to take necessary actions such as in personal responsibility and stop being a people pleaser, self-motivation, positive habits, disciplines, and persistence, time management, and focus finding true success and happiness. Tony began leading people to success more than 20 years ago, and in that time, he learned from many leaders, mentors, and coaches. He has helped many people find their success, careers, businesses, and lives through his time as a leader. He has helped many people find these successes through a specific style of calmly and politely telling how it is. I love telling how it is. Thank you so much for being here. And oh my goodness gracious, you were testing my English language really. And I think I failed meticulously. I think I butchered some people's names. So from the bottom of my heart, I do apologize first and foremost for any names I butchered. I absolutely love the fact that you help people in all their in area of their lives as possible. And I love the fact that you get people off their butts, asses, however we want to say it, to actually move. I have a coach that does the same thing with me. Will basically he says he calls me in, calls me forward to get me off my butt and move. And sometimes I don't do it willingly. And my trainer does the same thing. So I love that area. And I use not so nice language with my trainer all the time. We call it my workout language.
Right.
One of the things I want to dive in with you is because you help create that the wealth mindset and do the wealth creation, which is one of the things I focus on. As everybody knows, I focus on creating, retaining, and expanding wealth aligned with the goals and values and their desires, because I believe that if it's not aligned, it's just not going to work. Is the abundance versus the scarcity mindset, especially around money.
Mm-hmm.
I also believe that there's 5 wealth codes to being wealthy. So I believe in order to be truly wealthy, you should be wealthy in all areas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's spiritual, physical, mental, energetic, and financial. And you see, they all encompass each other.
Yep.
And the abundance and scarcity all encompasses in all those areas. So, but when it comes to the money, how do you see the abundance versus scarcity, like where people get stuck?
Well, the first and foremost, people get stuck because of the way they've been programmed, the way they've been taught by everybody growing up. Money doesn't grow on trees. Oh, that's too expensive. You can't afford that. You know, all these things we've been told our entire lives have caused us to think scarcely about money. And you have to save to earn. There's so many different sayings that we've heard. And so the first thing that I really help people with is turn those around. What could you say differently? Because what you speak into your world is what you're going to create. And if you're speaking scarcity around money into your world, you're going to create scarcity in your life. Now, if you start speaking and thinking more abundantly, then you're going to create that abundance. So the first thing is I first and foremost have somebody list down all the things they've heard about money, like those terms, like money doesn't grow on trees, a penny saved is a penny earned, blah, blah, blah. Write down as many as they can think of. And then I have them go through an exercise of turn that around. What could you say? But money does grow on trees, or there's plenty of money out there. I don't have to worry about this. And just recreate those phrases and speak them into your daily life. And I usually have them practice at least one of those. So you created these positive phrases around money. If there's plenty of money in the whole world, there's never going to run out. There's always enough for everybody. Whatever that phrase is that they choose, that they prefer out of their list, practice for a week using that in your daily life. Somewhere, somehow, practice speaking that, even if it's
Mhm.
just a random comes up in conversation. Like, oh, what? You know what? There's plenty of money for everybody out there in that world, in the world. Well, we're never going to run out. We can get as much as we want, or whatever that is. And you can be just talking to your friend.
Mhm.
Getting them into the habit of speaking positively into the world about money is a good first step. And it helps train your subconscious mind to start thinking better and more abundantly about money.
Yeah, I call that, I actually call it's money stories, stories that we've told ourselves about money,
Yeah.
stories that people have told us. And I tell people, I said, a story's a story.
Yes.
You read a book, if you don't like the story, what do? You turn the page, or especially those online stories, the stories that you can actually just determine what's next.
Oh,
My kids are all into those, right? And a lot of adults are too. I'm like, okay, well, imagine that. If you don't like this story, turn the page and choose a different one.
right.
And so, yes, it's easier said than done. I understand that. And what I do with that is I call it flip the script. So we're flipping the script, and that's what you're doing. You're flipping the script. And I agree, practicing it every day. And I'll take it a day a little forward. I also said have it wherever you can see it all the time, because a lot of times you'll say, "Yeah, I'm going to say it," and it's out of sight, out of mind. So I literally, when I was doing the work, wrote it in permanent marker, so it's black, big, bold, so I could see it on a sticky note, and I put it where it's the first thing you do in the morning. Or should be first thing you do in the morning, and the last thing you do, not you brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Mirror. So literally, it would be on my bathroom mirror, and I would see it. I would see it. You're immediately going to read it because there's something plastered right there in front of you on the mirror. And then I would say it to myself, right? So it's the
Yeah.
first thing I saw, the last thing I saw. And again, it's reprogramming your subconscious brain. I think I stuck it on my laptop. So, like when I was traveling, I lift the laptop up and there'd be two of them there. I
Nice.
got very creative because I know, like for me, some people, if you say, yes, I'm going to say it, but then you don't have it in front of you, it's out of sight, out of mind, especially if you got a significant other, you got kids, you got business, life happens, we get busy. So I think that's really, really important. I love that. Um, your journey yourself, eh, tell the listeners like how you journeyed from the scarcity to the abundance. Like, what's your story?
Well, it took a couple of big crashes. I went from thinking abundantly to thinking scarcity, and then back to abundant. Before I go on though, I love that you said sticky notes because I do the same thing. I got this one says I
Yes,
am.
I still have mine too.
Yeah, I do it. I
Huh?
do it all
And
over.
I
I do
change
it
and
all
I
over.
change I change them every so often.
So do I. So I love that you do. I said that. I was like cracking up because I'm looking at all these around my
You're looking
screen.
at all your sticky notes.
uh, so my wife and I have been on and off entrepreneurs for the better part of over 20 years. The last five of which have been almost five have been full time. And so, early on when I was still working in the corporate world, I was in quality assurance and it was miserable because in quality assurance, you're always dealing with that 1% negative. The company can do 99% positive, but I'm dealing with that 1% negative. It took a huge toll. And so my wife and I started out by being Amazon sellers. And we had built up a great brand and we were doing roughly 20 to 25,000 a month in revenues. And well, the crash came was we had done all this on credit. We had been continuing to spend on credit just to get more inventory, get it into the Amazon warehouses. And we never trademarked our brand. And somebody else came out with the same brand name, trademarked it, and got us ripped off of Amazon. So there we were left with tons
Wow,
of
they ceased and desist and made you stop everything. Oh my goodness gracious.
with about 11,000 units of inventory. So long story short, we had to take a loss on all of that. And we had bought most of that on credit because revenues were going so good. We didn't expect that to, go away. We're like, we'll just keep flipping it around. So put us in a big sink. And that was the real crash that took us into that scarcity mindset. Now we're thinking that, oh my God, money doesn't grow on trees. We got all this debt. Fast forward about 4 years. And I taken another job. We lived in the Seattle area for most of our lives. And I took a job in Panama City, Florida. The company moved us all the way across country. I'm thinking, okay, this is the next step in the right direction. Corporation's got great benefits. They're giving me the money I'm asking for, paying for the entire move. I'm like, cool. get there, and we moved there 2 months before Hurricane Michael, which plowed right over the top of us. Category 5 hurricane that we rode out, and yeah, wasn't a fun experience. So I'm
And if you're
still
not and for the record, if you're not from the South and you're not used to hurricanes, it's kind of like someone from the South going north and then getting hit with a huge snowstorm that y'all people up north are used to. I
right.
grew up in the South, so someone says, "Oh, you're in a tornado. Oh my gosh, are you okay? There's a tornado warning, a hurricane." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I shrug. They're like, "Aren't you no."
No,
I grew I grew up here. I was born and raised here. It's just same way with y'all with snowstorms, right?
right.
So, but if you've never been involved in something like that, and I've had one Category 5 go through Sumter's when I was like 13. It was Hurricane Hugo.
Yeah.
It was supposed to hit Charleston. It was never supposed to go inland. Again, I live inland. I don't live near the water, so I'm less likely to get an eye of the storm.
Right.
Okay. I will never say never because I was probably about 10 years old and Hurricane Hugo came did a sharp right
Yeah.
turn and went straight inland and it destroyed. I mean, the way it picked up houses, thank goodness our yard and our house was fine, but the way it picked up some houses in our neighborhood,
Mhm.
I'll never forget. It is still scary,
Yeah.
and tornadoes are scary. So I can imagine you moving and
2 months
and
later.
the first time you're in the South, and of course Panama is near water,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you're going to get hit a lot heavier than we do inland.
Well, and very similar to your story, this storm was actually supposed to go to the west of us. It was supposed to hit Pensacola and maybe Mobile, and when it was right offshore, there was like it's a high Category 2. It might be a Category 3 by the time it makes landfall, and that was at night. We go to bed, we
I
wake up the
remember.
next morning. They're like, "Oh my god, it's a 5!" And we're
I
like,
remember.
and now you can't get out of town because everything's shut down already. So,
Yep.
but anyway, so
The best you can do is you get away from the windows, you
yeah.
hunker down in the middle, you make sure, even when they say Hurricane 2, I still make sure all my stuff is charged just
Oh,
in case
yeah,
because they can only predict so much, but that's the
mhm.
best you can because you can't so many people try to leave and you can't. So how did that hurricane affect y'all though?
So
Like,
actually, believe it or not, the hurricane itself, other than the experience of hiding in a master closet for 4.5 hours, uh, other than that,
welcome to the South.
right, right, right. Yeah, my wife's looking at me in the closet going, "What did you get us into?" No, but actually, it was believe it or not, the storm itself was not what really took us back. The storm itself and the aftermath was actually quite lightning. Now, even though the damage was devastating, of course, I had never seen a community come together like that before.
Mhm.
Everybody's helping everybody. It didn't matter what race,
Did not
nationality,
matter.
religion, didn't
It
matter.
didn't matter.
You had a
Mhm.
chainsaw, you were cutting somebody out. You were getting somebody, helping somebody out. It was amazing in that sense.
Mhm.
The company I worked for, however, not so much. So even though physically we recovered fairly quickly because it was a large corporation, they dumped tons of money into the place to get it fixed back up and running within less than a month. We were running up and running in less than a month. But the leadership team and the employees never really recovered. And so it became the worst led, most miserable place again I'd ever worked. And I was just sitting there going, this was supposed to be the opposite. And so it was about that time where I hired my first coach. And it was my first coach that really broke me out of that negativity and really started leading me back in the direction of the abundance mindset. I was reminded of the way I used to think. So I started just pouring that into myself and my wife and our son. And we were just within just a few months of working with this coach, I had completely turned it around and I'd immediately decided that that's what I wanted to do. I'm like, I had fiddled around with some affiliate marketing, network marketing. I still thought about the Amazon thing, but that was when all the tariffs and everything were going on. And so I was like, no, coaching. I love helping people. I love turning people around and helping people find that like,
Mhm.
like I did. And
It's
so,
empowering.
oh, big time. And so,
Mhm.
so I actually hired this coach. I worked with that coach for 3 years and hired other coaches in between for different various reasons. One was a breathing coach, one was a straight mindset coach. And when my wife and I started speaking that into our world, our abundance mindset again, it just started happening. Money started flowing, and from places when you least expect it. When you really think positive, I mean, and a lot of people, for those listening out there, when you think negatively about money, that's when you're the most broke. That's when you look at the bills and you get stressed out. When you can think positive about money and abundantly about money, it's going to show up like you didn't even realize. Like out of the blue, you're going to say, "Oh, I just got a new client," or "Oh, I just got a refund on XYZ." You the least expect it. You're going to have a check's going to show up in the mail from your mortgage company saying, "Hey, you overpaid us. Here's a check." You're like, "Oh, cool." Um, so it really started turning around, and from there, so did my practice. And in September 2021, I was able to go, "See you later," and take it on full time. And coaching has just been phenomenal since then.
Yeah. And I'm going to say something too is uh, just like what you were saying, what Tony was saying, what you focus on, you create more of.
Mhm.
Um, m- I joke that I'm not woo woo. I'm very analytical, and I still believe what you focus on, you create more of. And I also believe that um, I've been broke. So I've been where a lot of people are. I know what it's like to struggle to figure out what bill you're going to pay.
Right.
When I was let go, I was barely making ends meet. And, my story is I then made the hard decision to have my vehicle repossessed and get on food stamps, which I was told I would never get off. And I made that decision because I was done. I had migraines, I had tension headaches. I was a billing auditor of trust accounts at a foreclosure law firm, and I was a CFO. And let me just tell you the amount of stress that had accumulated because of the housing market crashing in 2008 and
Hmm.
all of those things. And even 8 years later, it was way stressful. It was more jobs being added and less people being on there. And the turnover that they would have. We actually used to celebrate when we made it through layoffs. It is so sad that I actually counted how many. I used to joke, I'm good because I made it through 7 layoffs. I'm going, why in the world? That should be a huge writing on the wall that in no way, shape, or form are any of us safe.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Right.
Huge writing on the wall. But it wasn't until I was let go and I made those hard decisions and I heard a voice I was needed at home. Now was the time. I found out 6 months later why. And that's another story for another day. It was involving my daughter, my oldest. And I'm so thankful because I believe that if I wouldn't have been let go, I would have never, even though it's what I wanted, I would have never ventured because you were getting that paycheck and taking that big, huge risk like that is. And for me, I decided there was no plan B. It had to work. It had to, because it was either that or I go back to corporate and I start taking Excedrin tension migraine or Excedrin tension headache medicine again, like candy, and I didn't want to. I lived on Imitrex and I worked in with lamp in my office, the lights off, because the amount of migraines I had, and I just thought, okay, it was just something I was always going to have to live with. Y'all,
Right.
within 6 months of being out of that job, I've now been on my own business 8 years this October, and I've had 3 migraines in 8 years.
Nice. Nice. Congratulations.
3, 3, and they're nowhere near as severe as they were before.
Right.
um, and right, I know. And when I first started, I didn't start off as a coach. It manifested into that, right? Because I went
Yeah.
and started doing what I knew. I had my degree in, which found out I didn't want to do taxes any more than anybody else. Ugh. Um, and then because people come and go, and then even though I grew so fast at the end of the year, I was still trying to figure out where the hell my money was, and I couldn't figure out why I was still struggling. And part of it was because of the mindset.
Yep.
A coach said, if someone treated you like shit, would you stick around or would you come back? If someone talked bad about you, would you stick around and come back? I'm like, no. She said,
Yep.
why would money? I'm like, and that's when I did a huge deep dive into it. Money
Yeah.
to that, money stories, money trauma, money beliefs, how it comes from generation to generation and how it affects our money management, how it affects our thinking and the abundance mindset. And that's where I started doing my work.
Yep.
And, I believe that what we focus on, we create more of. So even when you're having a hard day, and I still do this to this day, I practice gratitude. That's another thing I do. I say thank you. So when I'm pumping gas, even if the business is taking a shift, because hello, the businesses are going to have shifts.
Yep.
When you're pumping the gas, saying thank you. Thank you that I have this money to put in the gas tank. Thank you that I was able to pay these bills.
Yep.
And just practicing that gratitude because, even 7.5 years in, my business has taken another shift and the scarcity, I call him scarcity gremlin. The gremlin has shown up. And this last time, force in more ways than I could have
Wow.
ever thought possible in the last 6 months. And because of the coaches and support I have, I was able to lean in and learn even more
Yeah.
tools that I could use to help me because I always say new level, new devil. So every time you're gonna
Oh
level
yeah.
up, you're gonna have a new devil. And that's where that scarcity gremlin comes in and starts talking smack. And you can't one of the coaches told me you can't ignore it. You need to get up close and intimate with it. I did
Hmm.
not like it when he said that. Um, he's recently told me this, by the way. But you need to
Oh.
get up close and personal with the fear because the fear that you have is basically feeding that scarcity mindset, feeding that gremlin.
Hmm.
And it hit me, and I went, and the reason why I didn't like him is because he was right.
Yeah.
Because it got me thinking. I'm like, holy crap, you're right. And so that's some of the work that I've been doing over the last couple of weeks. I've been doing that. Um, and getting up and close and personal is not something you want to do when you're when it's something you're afraid
Right.
of.
Right.
I'm like, who wants to do that? And I love the fact that you're saying, that you had this ups and these downs, right? And
Hmm.
you've been able to come back and rebuild. And I think it just shows that anything is possible, and two, even us who's done the work,
Yeah.
we experience times where we have to lean in and get some help because all of a sudden we can feel the scarcity coming up.
Yeah.
And we have to shift our mindset. And I just think it's really important. One of the things that you said, um, and I guess and this is partly of the scarcity and the abundance mindset, is taking calculated versus uncalculated risks. So I want to first talk about the difference. Okay, I'm gonna have you explain the difference because I want them to hear it from somebody else besides me
Yeah. Yeah.
because people can explain it we're probably both going to explain it slightly different, and then someone may catch it better because I say there's more than one way to say it or change your mindset. There's different things. I love the fact that we're aligned with the sticky notes and the
Yeah.
flipping the scripts and all. Again, we both literally do the same thing on that part. We just call it different things, which is still the same thing. But talking about that calculated versus uncalculated risks, because again, taking risk in our business is scary in itself, especially when you're the entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so first, let's explain what the difference is.
Okay, so calculated versus uncalculated. So if you take an uncalculated risk, you're jumping in with both feet without doing any research whatsoever. You're just kind of like throwing your money at something, hoping that it sticks and that it turns around. And I'll give you an example of both where I've taken both calculated and uncalculated. Whereas calculated, you do your due diligence, you do your research, and even if it is a large investment, you know that your odds of return are much, much higher. And you're really you're going to get a return on your investment. And so that's the short version. And should give you an idea, to give you an example of one of the uncalculated risks I took, which was very early on, right after we moved to Florida, or right about the time I had a coach, and I had some extra funds, and we invested $40,000 into a real estate investment with somebody who we didn't know. I didn't do my research on. I didn't do my research on the property that we were investing in. And this guy was getting ready to, he said he was close to finishing. He was getting ready to put it on the market. We were going to make back X number of dollars. And I did this based on a friend who said, hey, I've done business with this guy before. He's trustworthy. And so instead of me, where I would normally, even as simple as
Do your
Googling
due
the guy,
diligence. Do
yeah,
your due diligence.
do my due diligence on the property, on the person, on the business, etc. I didn't. I said, here's my $40,000. Property ended up going in the short sale. We lost 36 of that $40,000. And so it was a painful lesson in the world of calculated versus uncalculated risks. So many other times have I, pretty much every time since then, have I been very good about making sure that regardless, as a coach or as an entrepreneur, we get reached out to people by people all the time. Hey, we got this program. I'm this coach. I'm this blah, blah, blah. So anytime, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But if it sounds really good and there's a lot of information that goes along with it, then cool. And then I will take some time. I will, and everyone I've ever hired as a coach, some have been well-known names, some are not so well-known, but I've told them flat out, I said, you know what? I am interested. Everyone wants to get their enrollment. Everyone wants to get their sale. I'm like, cool. I'm really interested. Give me a few days. I'd like to take a look at some things. What can you offer me? What can you send me? And I'll take my time and I'll calculate, okay, cool. If I spend X number of dollars, what's my risk? Okay, cool. I could lose X number of dollars. What's the upside here? How many pros and cons are there of investing this money into this program, into this person, into this property, into this business, whatever it is? And if those pros outweigh the cons, I usually try to go by a double factor, but if they outweigh the cons, then you're in a much better place to make that investment.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And also, with that, I also trust my gut, my
Mm-hmm.
intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also made an uncalculated risk. It was in 2020. Lord help me.
Yeah.
Um, and it was a coach, and the promises that were made were basically what you were saying is too good to be true. Like literally. And I even said this sounds too good to be true. And I should have known by saying that. And when I say this, I'm a coach. I'm a wealth coach and CFO in one. I do not promise you that I'm going to help you make, I don't know, $50,000 a month. I don't do that. What I do is I tell you I'm going to help you, support you, and I'm going to show you how you can create, retain, and expand wealth on your terms, your values. I have some clients that wealth for them is making those 5 figures a month right at the 10 to 12 mark. And I have some that I got a lot, several, they're a lot more than that. Again, what we consider wealth is going to be different because it depends on our values and our goals and our desires.
Mm-hmm.
What I was promised was all these tangible things. Like I was promised, because he knew all these people and he spoke on these stages, he got his client on these stages too. I wasn't going to have to do legwork. All I had to do was create my one sheet and he was going to put me in, period. The I saw, what is it? Those shiny objects.
Yeah. Shiny object syndrome. I got
Shiny
it.
objects. I saw nothing but shiny object, and I wanted it more than anything. And during this time, we'd also agreed I need to rebrand because I'd started off with the accounting, and doing the taxes and all. I was Lisa Marie Accounting starting off, and it we need to rebrand because that's not what I did. It's not who I was, so it was wrong.
Right. Right.
So I now say that it was the most expensive rebranding anyone has ever done in history because that is the only thing that came out of that,
Yeah.
was that. And the amount of money I invested was, I mean, I lost all of it.
Yeah.
And it was over $30,000. I think it was close to, yeah, 30, 35 for 6 months. And for the last 2 months, he was like MIA. I couldn't even give him no calls, no nothing. Yeah, it was bad.
Wow.
Um, and so, I could have done two things. I could have moped or, just said, okay, that was it. It was done, right? I didn't listen to my intuition. I did not do my due diligence. And I am
Mm-hmm.
adamant about my clients not making any huge investment without at least sitting on it for 24 hours. And there's
Right.
a reason why I say that. Hence what his example he just gave, and
Yeah.
hence my example I just gave. I now don't do any huge investment without sitting on it for 24 hours. And during those 24 to 48 hours, I'm doing what he says. I'm weighing my pros and my cons. I'm listing them out. I'm looking at it. I'm investigating what can you send me? What, depending on what it is. And I'm looking at it and then I'm weighing it and I'm thinking about it and then I
Mm-hmm.
just sit with it and I'm analyzing it, but Try not to overanalyze it. And then you want to also trust your gut. And if you have questions in the process, make sure you ask them,
Yeah.
because I believe knowledge is power. So the more information we have, the more we can make um, a knowledgeable and calculated choice. Um, so, and I'm the same way. Now I don't do anything.
Yeah. 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 Well,
I want the information. I want to sit on it for 24 hours. I'm going to think about it. And it's even with my big coaches.
yeah.
The coach I have now, I absolutely love him to pieces. And when I was at his event, I said, he said, "Are you in?" And I said, "I'm going to tell you yes, and I'm going to tell you I want 24 hours to sit on it, and I want this information, and I want to look at it." And I wanted to see what success he's had, because that was my first mistake, is I did not check to see what other
Yep.
successes
Yep.
this other person had. I went by what he told me and what he had on this website, and come to find out there were several key things that if I would have asked some other people, I would have got the answers and I would have stayed away.
Yeah.
And it's lesson learned, right? And again, I rebranded, and that's been the best thing in the world. So I just say it was the most expensive rebrand.
Absolutely.
That's the way I look at it. Unfortunately, it was in the middle of COVID.
Ah,
So there is that,
yeah.
because it was in May of 2020. And it is what it is. And the key thing is we take those and we learn from them. And what we want you to take from it is make sure you're doing your due diligence before you go. And I like the way you said it, uncalculate. You're just throwing stuff at it and you're hoping it'll stick. And that's with like anything, an
Yep.
offer, that's with investing money into whoever. You want to make sure that your ROI and what you're going to get back is going to be worth it. Now, and sometimes your ROI is not going to be money. That needs to be stated. In his case, it should have been. My case, it wasn't. It was supposed to be exposure. But
Yep.
again, your ROI sometimes isn't going to be money. And you still want to make sure you're making or doing a due diligence. How does that affect the abundance and scarcity mindset with making sure you're making those calculated risks versus uncalculated?
Well, real quick before I get into that, I love how you said your gut and going with your gut, because and for you guys listening out there, one of the things I talk to about with my clients, or with any people that aren't even clients, in fact, even people that haven't become clients, usually you can tell within the first 10 minutes of talking to somebody if it's somebody you want to move forward with at all. If you have that gut's telling you no, like Lisa Marie was telling her no, walk away. Just walk away. I mean, you could always come back to them later, but there's no reason to make a quick decision when your gut's telling you no, there's something not right here, then there's probably something not right. So walk away.
The key is to actually listen to it and be tuned into it. Yeah.
And then if you do, your gut is saying, I really like this person, I want to learn more. Spend the time to learn more before you just jumping in, just to make sure. Do that due diligence. So to your question, when you have those uncalculated risks and you're throwing something at the wall hoping it sticks, and it won't, very, 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 very few times. If you have a horseshoe up here, you know what, you might get lucky. But other than that, the majority of times it's not going to work out, and that most cases will put people into that scarcity mindset. They're like, oh my God, I just lost all this money. What am I going to do now? All the money's gone, or that chunk of money's gone. And so you automatically, in general, we're human beings. It happens. Welcome to planet Earth. We just tend to go that direction. We tend to take ourselves to that negative. And it's important, much more important at that time, to have somebody bring you back. Like you're talking about, and like I'm talking about, having a coach or having a mentor, somebody close to go, hey, I'm really having a moment, man. This just happened. What can we do? What can we talk about? And those are huge, because those can bring you back. Now, when you have the calculated risks, and they do, like you said, the ROI, be very clear. I want to agree with you 100%. The ROI is not always money. I've talked about hiring mindset coaches. I never intended to make a single penny out of the programs I was going with them. It was about shifting my mind and where I was thinking.
Hiring my OBM, let me just tell you, she saves me time. My ROI is my time.
Yeah.
And nothing to do, my OBM and my VA, the ROI on that is time.
Yeah.
And so again, your ROI is not going to always be money.
Nope. Nope. But however, when you do take those calculated risks, not only are you feeling more abundant going in because you've done your due diligence, you're feeling that confidence. You're like, yeah, I checked all this out. This does look as good as it is. I'm in. I am all the way in. So now you're going in with that confidence. You're going in with that belief that it's going to work. You're going in with that abundance thinking because you know what you're going to get out of this, regardless of what that ROI is. And it just keeps you there. And then when you get it, you're even more confident to keep on going and motivated to do more and more and more. So and really that's the biggest difference I see, or that actually has affected me. When I take the calculated risk, it tends to work out, and you tend to keep thinking more abundantly. When you take the uncalculated risk, tends not to work out, and you bring yourself back to that negative scarcity mindset.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree. This is something I could talk about for, I don't know, ever. Which I've pretty much said on all my episodes, I think. Because, which is also again why I started the podcast to begin with, because I love talking about money, and I think and all of the ins and outs of it, especially with the abundance mindset and the scarcity mindset, and just here's the thing. What we think is what we create. So,
Mhm.
what we focus on, we create more of. So, if you're saying you're never going to make money and you're thinking you're never going to make money, then you're never going to make
Right.
money. If you're saying there's not enough money and you're thinking there's not enough money, then what you put out in the world is there's not enough money. So that's the reason why I think it's really important that you focus on the abundance and flipping that
Yeah.
script. And I know Tony's going to agree with me that what you think of is what you create more of and what you put out in the world. So you want to flip it so you can change it. And what I was also saying was, and this is really big, is that it's not do once and work on it and then never have to do it again. You're going to always, 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 always have to work on that
Yeah.
mindset. Tony's even said he has mindset coach. I have a coach. He- he's done work for several years. I've done work for several years too. And if I'm not mistaken, he just said he was also still doing work. And I just admitted I'm still doing very
Yeah.
deep
Yeah.
work, because the little scarcity gremlin of mine decided to appear. And so it's really important. This is just a really important subject. Um, Tony, you have a free offer for the listeners. Will you please tell them what that is?
Yeah. So this is for anybody who out there is trying to get sales or clients, if you're a consultant or a coach. And it is an actual free course, digital course on getting referrals. Referrals, especially for coaches and consultants, can be one of the best things you can do. And most people aren't utilizing the people they already know. So this is a huge one. So if you go to upgradereferrals.net, upgradereferrals.net, and you'll get your absolute free copy of the 7-module course that will get you all the referrals you're looking for. And I've literally built my entire coaching business around this baseline program. So a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Okay, so that was upgradereferrals.net.
Yes, correct. And
Okay, we will make sure that I wanted to make sure I had it right, because I'm gonna make sure it's put in the show notes,
Yeah.
so that you can grab it. And Tony, thank you so much for being on with me today. This was a lot of fun, and again, I could sit here and talk about
Me
this
too.
all day. And I truly appreciate it. And I'm hoping, my sassy listener, that what you got out of this is you can see there's some ways that you can take it and flip those scripts, and that how to do your due diligence before you make those investments. So I am sure I'm going to be bringing him back on later. Again, another time. I've already decided that. So until next time, stay sassy, my friend. Thanks for joining us this week on Cash and Sass. Check us out on social media and on our website at www.thesassywealthcoach.com, where you can download my free Money Story Start Guide. The website again is www.thesassywealthcoach.com. And as always, subscribe to the show to catch every new episode, and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. And remember, yes, it is possible to have sassy and sexy money. See you next week.